on the cloud, so we should be recording. Leigh, can you just see the presentation that's coming up?
Yes.
Okay, you can see the slides. Perfect. So we're here today. Myself, Leigh is on Zoom, and Lynn can't make it today, and then Andrew. We are introducing the academic care team. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly go over what it is. Andrew's got some data to show us to kind of show you exactly how we got to this place and kind of where we're going to go with it. There it goes. All right, so purpose of the care team, we have introduction of the team that we put together, some of the functions that we're going to be doing, and some of the anticipated outcomes and benefits. So we have prepared all that. Hello, Lisa. All right, so what is the academic care team? We are an escalation process. We are a support to the advisors. This kind of came about looking at starfish flags that were negatively cleared, and the question got raised, what happens next? So an advisor reaches out to a student, can't get a hold of somebody, what do you do next? So that kind of question fueled all sorts of conversation, and we developed the academic care team. So we technically are the next step with the starfish process. So here's the team. We sat around the table with a whole different bunch of departments, and we landed on this as the team. So we have a representative from the Advisement Center, actually two of us, because Andrew and myself will be on the team. Res Life and Housing, so we have Leigh, Viscomi. Counseling Center, so Lynn is also going to be part of the team, and then we have accessibility resources that will also be joining us. This was giving us a broad range, especially when we're looking at the holistic view of helping these students. Advisors could not reach them. What's next? How do we reach out to them? What are we going to do to get to them? So here's kind of the meat and potatoes of it. We're a review structure, negatively cleared flags. So Andrew goes in and clears all of those flags. An instructor raises a flag, an advisor, their responsibility is to reach out to the student to say, hey, come in, let's talk about this. There's only so many times that you can reach out to a student and they're not answering, they're not answering, and they're not answering. So an advisor will go ahead and negatively clear the flag. That doesn't mean that it's gone away. That doesn't mean that, you know, nothing has happened. It just means we tried, couldn't get a hold of the student, and now the situation is going to be escalated to our team where we can take a look at it. So the review process, really holistic. We're going to look at the whole entire situation of what's happening with the student. There's other committees that are meeting on campus, such as BIT. So they're more focused on the behavioral intervention of the team, and they meet earlier in the week. I believe it's on Tuesday. So our team has gone down to strategically figure out when we need to meet to gather the most information about these students. So if another committee is already handling the situation, taking care of the students, we can kind of take a look at that. And that's another reason for the team members is they also have students that are on their caseloads. So if they're meeting with counseling services, we don't know that information, but we can just say that student is already being taken care of in a different office. Same thing with accessibility resources. We don't know that information, and that is okay, just as long as that office is working with the student. The main goal here is to just make sure that students are being connected with and making sure that they're doing what they need to do on campus, and it's going to the appropriate offices. Leigh, do you have anything else to add to that? Maybe particularly about the Res Life side of things?
I think you're going to get to it a little bit later in the presentation, so I'll just wait for that and then I'll add in if it makes sense.
Okay. Did you have anything? Okay.
So yeah, where did this come from? And taking a look and see what our goals are going to be then, and how do we assess this? So this comes from looking at our starfish, as Corie mentioned, when we clear those flags and when they're negatively cleared versus when they're positively cleared. And in both cases of earning credits and GPA, when a student has had a positive closure reason, and the definition of the positive closure reason includes both the actual positive in starfish and that other category. So meaning basically like the student had some type of meaningful connection with likely their advisor in this case to address the concern. And so when that flag is cleared negatively, students earn a higher GPA, they earn more credits. So our goal is this group, we're targeting that negative closed flag, and we want to see them be closer to those peers who had that positive closure, which obviously when you look at, the GPA and the credits earned, these are still not, a successful story here. There's still students who are struggling. And so we know that we're working with a population who's already at risk. And now we're just trying to mitigate those students that have kind of fallen through the cracks, that they didn't get caught in that first wave of intervention. So here's now a more targeted, holistic approach to, helping students be successful.
Any questions on this kind? All right, so what are we going to do with these students after we meet and look at the whole situation? We just kind of brainstormed. We're not going to know every single situation that's coming through the door. I think every advisor knows as soon as you think you've seen every situation, another student comes in and throws something completely different at you. So we kind of looked at just surface value. What are some of the things that we would recommend, and what are some of the things that we can do to further assist these students? Hall directors. Getting hall directors in res life and housing is now in starfish, so they can know and see flags that are coming up, but we can directly reach the hall directors. So working with Leigh and her team to make sure, have you seen the student? Is everything okay? Can you give us a little bit more information about that? Counseling services, we have Lynn on our team, so she'll be able to help us with what services they have, possibly what the student has already been involved with, and what else can we get in front of them. Tutoring, if it's purely an academic situation, new services that are being offered through OLS, do they know about them? Do they know how to get to OLS? Have they ever been? Sometimes it's just the nerves the students have of walking down for the very first time. Once they do it once, they get comfortable with it. So tutoring service is definitely one of the recommendations that we might offer to these students. Connecting with instructors. We have found several examples with students. We ask them, have you met with your instructors? No, they haven't. But why? Are they nervous? Are they, not ready to talk? Do they not want to own up to the fact that they did bad on a test, or, didn't turn in their homework? But breaking that cycle and helping the student develop some language and some conversations to approach their instructor. And helping them through that process, giving them the language so that they can help themselves within the class. And then also the Dean of Students office, which will be involved with our group as well. They offer a broad range of services there, and definitely a case management type of approach when it comes to the students. This is not an endless list. This is the first round that we kind of thought of some of the recommendations. Always looking for support from other offices. So if you have any other recommendations or suggestions, let us know. We're going to start meeting weekly starting in the fall. So progress surveys will go out. We'll start collecting flags, and they're going to be negatively cleared by advisors, hopefully positively cleared, and we can make that first connection. But if it does get to the point negatively cleared, we'll run some lists, bring that list to this group, and offer some recommendations, really taking a solid look at the student's scenario. Leigh, I don't want to leave you out of this. I can't see you. Do you have anything?
No, you mentioned it. I was kind of waiting for you to mention kind of how we were going to utilize the hall directors to connect with the students. So a lot of times because the hall directors have offices and apartments right in our residence halls, they have a better chance at catching some of these students who other professionals may have a really hard time getting a hold of or to get to come into their office. So we're hoping that additional layer will be really successful in reaching some of these students, like I said, who have been historically maybe harder to get into an office to talk to somebody.
Like I said, this list is not endless, and you know, this was just our first round of what could we do. But I have a feeling it's gonna grow, and I think other offices are there to help and assist with these students as we come to them. So that's our team. We're very early. I see that we've got lots of time. What are your questions? I think I'm more interested in the questions that you guys have because it's gonna help us develop our team, considering we have not met yet, and we haven't offered any recommendations. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing. And does anybody have any questions?
Corie, I'll just ask, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Grace put one in the chat. She can go first. I'll ask next.
That's okay, Lisa. If you want to talk, that's good.
Yeah, I think Grace has a question in the chat.
She wanted to know how EOP could be involved.
Absolutely. I think, you know, as we work the holistic view, if we have an ELP student that comes up on this, I mean, you as advisors being an APC, you're gonna know the negatively cleared flags that are coming through. So once we get that name, if they're working with other offices, we will definitely reach out to their advisors, give us a little bit more information. Those notes in Starfish are gonna be huge so that we can investigate and kind of look at the whole picture of the student. So yeah, any EOP student that we have, and any recommendations that they have, we will definitely be in touch, with EOP.
Well, and really quick, we looked to for this semester to see what this would have looked like if the care team was in place. And one of the things that I checked on was to see if there was any like subpopulation of student that was being overrepresented in the negatively cleared flags, and it was not the case. So like if like an EOP student does come up as a negatively cleared flag, and yes, the EOP program would be probably involved in that care. What it looks like, we don't know yet because we haven't done it yet.
One conversation that we did have when we put together who's on the team, it's not, you know, that's all that's ever going to be on the team. Instead of having all of those partners there every single time, you know, if we come across a case, then we're going to reach out and build our team to be like, hey, we have one of your students, come on in, help us out with this scenario. So just because the team is labeled with those offices, that's not the end all be all. We definitely are going to reach out for help to other offices and other services as well. Lisa?
So I was just going to ask about the limitations with the online student population, you know, not having the residence hall connection and often some of those other on-campus support services. What has there been discussion about what this process will look like? Imagining it's probably going to be more about reaching out to instructors, but for those online students who aren't physically on campus.
I think the same scenario, like Andrew said, is when we pulled the preliminary data and looked at kind of the list, there was no one group of students that stood out that were an overabundance that we really needed to focus on. We are going to rely heavily on how you guys advise online students. It is a different population. You have different methods of outreach. The only example that I can think of right now, and I keep looking up, I'm sorry. The only example that I can think of right now would be helping that student, giving them the language, giving them the support if they have to reach out to their instructor. That has been kind of one of the main examples that we've gone on is why they're not reaching out to advisors and instructors. They're shy. They're, you know, don't know how to approach. They've never done it, but once they do it once, and then once they get that item in their toolkit, it might help them as they go through. So Lisa, we're gonna turn to you guys as the experts of how to communicate and how to work with the online population. So as soon as we get some of those students in, we will definitely be in touch.
Thank you.
Allison? Oh, we have a microphone, so.
Hi, this is Allison Ayotte from the Tutoring Center. I just wanted to make sure that everyone on the care team knows that the Tutoring Center is open to everyone. We try to be a very welcoming, inclusive space. And we're, doing things all the time to make it more welcoming and inclusive. Any student or faculty or staff matter, for that matter, can come, whether they have an appointment or not, and just, hang out and use our space. And we always have a hot beverage bar and even snacks available, to help meet the needs of students so that they can do their best while they're there. And sometimes students just come and like grab breakfast before they go to class. They're not even necessarily coming for tutoring, but they know they're welcome, and we want to make sure everyone else knows that as well.
Thank you. Do you have a question?
Oh, Mary, yeah, coming up to the mic. Come on down.
Come on, Jen.
No prizes today, unfortunately.
Well, the first is just a comment that I know, and this is like kind of related to the residence hall, that the attendance flag we found is like a very hot flag, and that seems like a thing that the residence halls could kind of, just be kind of keeping an eye, or it's like a direct relationship to like, oh, how about getting up tomorrow morning, and like, not that you're gonna check on them, but that is something that I would think would be a good connection. The question I have is the name care team. Is that something that's going to be shared with students? Is it something that you chose for a reason, that it's more? I was just curious in terms of, and also thinking from it, and, as you're telling parents or families, this is like what the tone and what you were hoping to convey by that name.
So it was pretty much the starfish care team at first. And then we kind of pulled back from that, and we're like, what are we really doing? So I think it was recommended that we're looking at flags are raised because of academic reasons. So it's definitely academic, but we're adding that layer of care on it. We're adding, advisors do care, but we're adding that extra layer onto it. So I don't think we're married to the name, but I think you raise a really good point about advertising it to the parents, as this is another thing that we do at Oswego to help your students. So we also meet with a bigger group of who helped us create this group. So I'm going to bring that back to them too.
Because it's not an acronym or anything.
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't have an opinion. I just was curious,
Oh.
it does have a certain thing to it, whether it's positive or negative, who knows what a student would feel for that,
Sure, yeah. It's definitely a good point. Like I said, we started off with just the starfish care team because we were caring about these negatively cleared flags and what happens next. So then it kind of evolved to the academic care team because they're academic flags. But you definitely raised some good points, so bring that back to the group. Anybody else? Well, thanks for coming to our TED Talk. It was brief, but like I said, we just started. We're gonna get things rolling in the fall. So we're gonna be reaching out to different offices, and I'm sure as scenarios come up, we'll definitely develop this more. Questions like the actual name and advertising, all things that need to be considered as we grow this team.
Can I say, because it really is a behind the scenes thing, though. I mean, you're
Yes.
not really gonna know when a student won't really know.
Yeah.
Why.
Yeah, we don't even have in starfish, we raise the academic care team, like that is not a part of this. This is really just, like you just said, behind the scenes of catching what is falling through our current intervention system.
And so you're thinking that it won't go back through the advisor, but then maybe someone else will reach out to the student.
Yes.
Yeah, and maybe the hope then would be the next time something happens, they do go to their advisor because they recognize that that's an appropriate person to help them in times of academic, struggle and difficulty and whatnot. Or if it's, a mental health concern and I recognize that I need to go to the counseling center. So it's like, because they have not had that meaningful connection, we're trying to find, okay, who is going to be that person to get connected with them.
Well, thank you. Leigh, do you have any last minute stuff? Very excited to have the folks on board with this, because then, like Leigh said, it's gonna be that extra connection for us, so thank you. Thank you for joining our team. Thank you.
I did that.
Yes.